Hello and welcome to another GRL podcast. This week we were at Imola for round 14 for, as always, our 7F1 divisions on Monday and our F2 division. We're enjoying that was as well on Wednesday evening. It was the last race before the final third of the season and before the final week break of season 3 as well. So drivers were going at it one last time before they could catch a little bit of a break for 7 days until we head over to Sakhir in Bahrain for the next race. We also had a sprint weekend, so the penultimate sprint weekend of the season, so extra points getting awarded as well. Obviously, some drivers happy about the sprint format, others weren't. For example, some of the championship leaders as their lead could have gone down with it. Alpine and Williams, as Aston Martin and Ferrari were battling each other in the overall constructors as well, which we'll have a look at later as well. A special guest will be here with me guiding you through all the action we had over in San Marino. So I'd say just let's get started with it and have a look at the Grand Prix weekend from Imola. And once again, we're gonna start off with Division 1, and it was around Imola. It was Rain who won in the rain, coincidentally, by beating Ford to the win. And Tyce Danny on his debut picked up a P3. Then we had God of Gaming in P4, Jurassic in P5, Blade in P6, Gary the Goat in P7, TII Exotic in P8 after collision with Sora, Lone Retreat in P9 and M76V in P10 for Alpine. So looking at the driver standings, it's gotten closer once more as Sora couldn't capitalize after his qualiban from any points. So Ford with the P2 closes the gap down to making it only 6 points difference after also picking up 1 point in the sprint race. Blade then on 149 after a difficult race once again, and his teammate Razzie 10 points further behind. Rain then jumps up to 102 and is now back in the top 5 of the championship, with Ninja behind obviously by not racing once more. Michael Dale on 71 points after another retirement for the second Red Bull driver Partick in P8. Rage in P9 on 54 and Gary with 53 points. He also had a very difficult race in the end. Considering the team standings, Williams extend the lead over Red Bull after a double DNF for the Austrian squad. Then we've got Alfa Romeo on 200 points, so Aaron definitely needs to claw back some of this loss in the next couple of weeks. Then we've got Mercedes on 194, McLaren on 149, Alpine only 1 point behind, the Woking-based team with Aston Martin on 107, Haas on 60, Ferrari on 51, and AlphaTauri on 30, and rounding out the top 10 and whole 10 of the constructor standings pretty much. So as said, I've got Blade with me once again this week, becoming a habit recently. So good nevertheless to have a Division 1 drive alongside, because it obviously is the elite division of GRL. And once again, for yourself, not the best of weekends. Beeford closed the gap, which is technically good for the championship, but yourself technically kind of see the championship slipping away. But considering Stora is still leading the championship and you gained a couple points on him, I think it's still kind of damage limitation, isn't it?
Yeah, no, well, hello again. I'm here to give my boring answers as usual. And yeah, I think yeah, obviously not incredible for me, but then as you said, I did still gain on the championship lead, so I'm closer to the championship lead than I was before, which it wasn't looking that way after my turn one of the race. But yeah, obviously, with my own bias aside, it's good to see that we have now Ford, right next to Sora in the championship, and I think certainly for race pace they're very closely matched. So hopefully we can see a battle between them on track a couple of times in these last couple of races because it's definitely I'm sure they both really want to win the championship, and I think it'll be a great spectacle if they can go head to head in at least one of the last 7 races. And for myself, I'm still I still think I'm not out of it at all. All it takes is for either of them to have a poor weekend and me to have a really good one, and I'm within a race win again. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as you said, they're now really close in the championship. It's only 6 points, so it's less than the difference we have from a race winner to second place. And yeah, it's kind of interesting though, because if, as you said, those two start having a tussle or a couple more even, this could technically bring yourself and Drazzy into this battle again, and I guess that's probably your biggest chance of getting really into the battle again, because from what we could hear and see, I mean, it's not quite Verstappen Hamilton like, but you kind of can see the rivalry between Saw and Beeford shaping up, can't you? Or is that just a bit of media playing mind games that they're doing so far?
Well, I don't know. I think regardless, they both want to win the title. So even if there's no, obviously there's nothing personal between the two. I don't think, but I think either way they'll be looking to you know take each run, and I'm sure if there's a collision at some point on track, maybe there'll be a little pointing of fingers. So is yeah, but I don't know. Yeah, it's great, and of course it had to be Mercedes versus Red Bull because how could it not be? And two Williams, throw them in there as well.
Yeah,
Oh, Nicholas Latifi.
yeah. I mean, as said, this could be a very interesting if it would have been Abu Dhabi final, but it's a Brazil final. But I think some Brazil rain could definitely make this interesting. But yeah, I think that's enough for Division One. Definitely want to look out for as every week. Considering the attendance, it looks like a very full and very stacked grid. With also some new additions, so definitely have a look on those when we head over to Bahrain. And I think Bahrain's gonna be one of those races that are definitely very interesting. It's not only hot outside of the cars, it's probably also very hot inside the cockpit when you head into this after the long DRS straight, head into turn one. Then you've got another two other DRS straights ahead of you, so that's definitely gonna be interesting. And the most important thing is probably to not extend turn four when you pass somebody. But yeah, now let's move over to Division 2, and it's a new winner, Chia Sedan. In my opinion, that's the wrong Rebel driver who won, but hey, that's my opinion. With Otto in second, Jackster in third, Dylan Baxter in P4 for Mercedes, Amos Lloyd picking up P5, Ghost Jr. in P6, Edamuro in P7, Gisabo in P8, Distant Bard in P9 and myself in P10, rounding out the top 10. So, like in Division 1, one driver of the winning team obviously wins, and the other one finishes in 10th position. Then the driver standings. This is now possibly a bit more boring, but it's now due to him returning a bit closer than when he left. Slapbus leads the championship with 184, 20 points leading from Alpine's Distant Baden and Jackstone 142, still with a good chance on picking up the driver's crown. Ottun 112 after losing P1 at the final lap of the race in intermediate conditions into the Villeneuve chicane. Amos Lloyd now three numbers next to his name with 100 points. Myself on 95. Dan now on 80 points right behind me, so some good points for his championship. Ghost Jr. on 79 points with Panos on 65 and Codename Delta once again being in the top 10 on 61, so he's definitely trying to stay in there. Yeah, looking at the team standings, as said, it looks quite done so far, with Alpine almost having 100 points gap to Ferrari, as they on 324 and Ferrari on 226. Red Bull on 202, so it might be an interesting fight for P2, while Aston Martin is on 175 points, so they might to try and get that second place as well. Then we've got Mercedes on 145 due to some great performances from Dylan Baxter recently. Alfa Romeo on 127, with Williams on 97, Haas on 84, Alpha Tauri on 66. So the 10th in Division 1, 9th in Division 2, so not doing too well for themselves in here. McLaren last though on 48 points. Well, we said before the weekend this could be very important for Distant Bart, because if he wins, he leads the championship. In the end, with a gamble in wet weather conditions, he finishes P9. Otherwise, would have probably been around P6 or even higher. Well, that's probably one of those crucial mistakes, isn't it, Blade? But the question is, with how close the field is, will this probably mean it doesn't change too much, or could this be quite crucial in the end of the championship, with Sleppas returning after technically not being here for 4 weeks?
Yeah, definitely. I think it is a crucial part of the championship. Definitely. If I don't know where Bard was before he decided to pit and do the
Yeah,
wrong
it would
strategy,
have
but
been P6, because
P6. Okay.
yeah, it went from dry conditions to drizzling rain and to winter conditions, and some people, including Bada myself, tried the undercut, because the rain wasn't expecting to hit that early. But it did, so suddenly other drivers like Jackster, Otto, Lloyd, and Dan were up top. But yeah, he would have been around P5, P6, and then pitted and was in P9. So we definitely lost him a couple of positions.
Yeah, so sounds a bit unlucky, but obviously, I mean, it's not the biggest point swing. It's not like he was going to win the race or anything. So, but you know, if Bard loses a championship by you know, those 8 points he could have potentially gotten, this could be one point that he looks back to and thinks, if only he went for the other strategy. So, yeah, obviously time will tell what happens, but I don't think it's like a massive loss, as I said before. So I think it's going to be difficult to beat Slapbus when he comes back, but it's definitely possible. And you know, who's to say Slapbus isn't going to make the same mistake at one point in the race? You know, with a potential rainy Brazil, you never know. So yeah, obviously, it probably don't feel great, but I'm sure that Bard can claw back some more points in the coming races.
Yeah, for sure, and it's also quite interesting because you probably say Bahrain is probably more favourable for a pad user, while we then have Canada and Zandvoort, which no discussion, those are tracks favouring the wheel. And then closer to the end of the season, we also have a sprint weekend at China, which is probably the biggest pad track existing in the game. So yeah, we could see a couple of interesting point swings. I believe Slappers is on pad, distant bodies for sure. Jackson, Otto, and Lloyd, for example, are on wheels. So we might see a first-time win for Otto Lloyd, or Jackster coming back, which I could definitely see if he can keep his head down. Struggled a bit with that recently. Was a bit of a Max Verstappen from 3 years ago, but I'm sure when he sees what he can achieve, he'll probably try to focus on that and be right there. And a freeway fight heading into the final stages of the season is probably what many people want to see, and especially our commentator Sinity will be happy to welcome you in his stream by watching Division 2. So yeah, I wouldn't miss that. But for now, I'd say it's enough of Division 2, and we move over to Division 3, where, surprise, it's Ham who wins at Imola. You can hear in my voice, I'm not really surprised by that, as Jam completes the 1-2 for SLR Kiksura, P3 for Williams, so that's good for Blade's overall Constructors' Championship, with Williams in P1 and P3, Greenhorn in P4, F1 XL Kimi in P5, S-Game in P6, Koi in P7, then with Kuroki in P8, and the two Ferraris with Jeets and Alpha Heated in P9 and P10, completing the last points paying positions. In the driver standings, it's now a 33-point gap from Estella Ham to Jobbo, so Ham is really pushing to wrap up this championship as soon as he possibly can. All the while, Estella Jam passes AJ Nolan for P3 after difficult couple of races for the Alpine driver. Estella Jam finally breaks into this top 3 position, with Alpha Heated on 55 points in P5, some Pikachu 4 points behind him, Wildy Mango behind some Pikachu, then in P7. Then we've got TD Thomas, Croaky, and Diolki completing the top 10 in the driver standings. In the team standings, Williams leads with 280 points, and they're really trying to also pick up this trophy with AlphaTauri on 209 points and Alfa Romeo on 196. Alfa Romeo still trying to pick up P2 in this championship. Aston Martin then sitting in P4 on 169. Haas on 151, Mercedes on 119, and then it's quite close between P7, 8, and 9, with Alpine, McLaren, and Red Bull all being within 20 points. So many things can change here, and it will probably be very, very crucial for the overall constructors with it. And then we've got Ferrari in 10th position on 36 points, so they're definitely struggling despite having a double points finish last time around. Well, Blade, I mean, we're having this part every week recently where we just say, I mean, Ham is just amazing. But I think we can't really say much more. I mean, looking at the last few races, he's won the last 5 Grand Prix. I mean, this man is simply amazing. I mean, we've got some changes every week behind there, but the guy in P1 is just always the same.
Yeah, certainly he's doing an incredible job, and all I can say is keep it up, you know. So for his sake and for Williams' sake. So yeah,
Yeah,
um,
definitely. I mean, he came in here after a solid Division 4 campaign, I'd say. I mean, he didn't win every race he participated there, I believe, but definitely was doing well. But he seemingly only got better by joining Division 3, and is probably not even aiming for Division 2, but maybe in Division 1 for the next season, whatever that is, if it's 3.5 or season 4, whatever game it is, if it's of 122, of 123. So that's going to be very interesting where how this will shape out actually, because I think at this rate you could probably consider Ham being one of the 20 quickest drivers in the whole league, and yeah, you can't just drop him off a title at this part because he certainly deserves it despite not being here for the whole 14 rounds. But if you just claw back that disadvantage you had compared to the other drivers and then suddenly lead the championship over race win, is definitely quite remarkable. But obviously, it makes it a bit difficult looking at the driver standings because you've got Jobbo around 60 points ahead of Jam. Probably kind of a look if Jam can pick up P2, but you probably can only raise the question. I mean, if Jobbo sees a chance in catching him, I mean, I think he's quite a tough fighter's Jobbo, but it probably feels for him like he's fighting a ghost. He sees him there, but he can't really catch him. Or do you see any huge possibilities that Jobbo can suddenly turn his game up actually and catch Ham suddenly?
yeah. I mean, like I said before, you know, Ham's got so much momentum right now in this championship, but I don't know whether I'm imagining things. I think Jobbo got quite unlucky this race, did he? He was looking to actually win. I don't know for
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
but
it
yeah.
was, and then
So
potentially intentional safety car was caused by a certain Haas driver, which turned it around, and then yeah, Ham won, and Jobber even retired. So it's a huge point swing, but yeah, I mean, still, It's
Yeah.
of course it's unfortunate, but I guess he didn't need to retire, did he?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, obviously, maybe him knowing that he could have won that race will give him, some motivation and make him believe that he can still, you know, take the championship back. It's definitely going to take a lot to beat Ham right now, but I think if Dribble really focuses and puts in the hours, he can definitely make an impact. So we'll hopefully we'll see some crazy races, and I'm sure if Jobbo gets even a sniff of a opportunity to beat Ham and gain points on him, he'll grab it with both hands. So
Yeah, definitely, and that's how we wrap up Division 3 pretty much and move over to the potentially most interesting division at this rate, which is Division 4. And once again, like pretty much every week, we have a different and new race winner, which is from AlphaTauri, Krigmit. So it's not Jacob Brown for AlphaTauri who picks up P1. No, it's Krigmit this time around, getting chased by Jakub KF22 and Lewis F1 in P3. Then we've got championship leader Jamie Hobbs in P4, Jacob Brown in P5. Then we've got Jaden in P6, from Tweaky Scorpion in P7, Andrew in P8 after a horrific qualifying session, Michael in P9, and Drizzle in P10 from the WRL esports team. So Jamie Hobbs for Ferrari still leads the way in the driver standings by 30 points. He's now sitting on 174, with Jacob Brown on 144. And we've got Ronnie on 85.5, who sadly couldn't make the Imola Grand Prix, with Jakob now only being 1.5 points behind, and also Rex only 0.5 points behind the Alpine driver. So it's very close there between third, fourth, and fifth. Now we've got Andrew also only 4.5 points behind, sitting on 79, and Lewis and Krigmit only split by 1 point as well, and being really in the action here for P3. So that's a really big battle for this position, and I think also the final spot for Division 4 in the All-Star race at the end of the season. Then we've got Erna in P9 sitting on 60 points, with Michael just behind, still in P10 and struggling recently to pick up many points, but he did with 2 this time around. Looking at the Constructors' Championship, AlphaTauri now have extended their championship lead. They're sitting on 281 points, eyeing on the big 300, with Ferrari in 257. From McLaren doing well in Division 4 by having 183 points, and Alpine 148, 7 points ahead of Williams. So those two really having a close battle in Division 4 as they do in the overall Constructors' Championship. Haas sitting on 121 points, 4 points ahead of Aston Martin, of Andrew and Raven West, who are on 117 points. Then Alfa Romeo, the last team in Division 4 with having more than 100 points, by having 2 more than that, which is 102. Then we've got Mercedes on 47 points, just 3 points ahead of P10 Red Bull. So those two teams fighting for the top at Division 1, and the drivers are fighting for P9 and P10 in the Division 4 Constructors. But yeah, Blade, I mean, I think it's now 11 race winners in 14 races, with Krigmit picking up his first win after just about holding on to P1 from Jakob, who also had an incident with Lewis in the sprint race. I mean, it's just amazing how many different race win contenders we have in Division 4, but we can technically really see that this is shaping up to be a good championship at the end of the season, because during the Division 4 race, we could see Ferrari and AlphaTauri were both trying to work together to, wouldn't say harm the other team, but definitely trying to work together and gain as many points as possible for the championship contender.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, first of all, incredible to have so many different race winners. It's always exciting to see who wins next because that's seemingly how it's going right now. And yeah, well, obviously with Alpine, oh, not Alpine, sorry, AlphaTauri and Ferrari having, I think there's a bit of a gap between their two drivers in terms of points. So I guess they're, being smart and using the other driver to try and take points off the
Yeah,
championship contenders. Yeah,
the
it's always
gap
a good idea if you're in that position.
the
So
gap in Ferrari is 90 points, around 90 points, and the gap in AlphaTauri is 70. So I think both Krigmit and Rex know that. I mean, it's still possible to win the championship, but you really need probably to play a Russian roulette in the races to somehow get yourself back in the championship fight.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. It's definitely a smart strategy, and obviously, I'm sure that even though they might be considered a second driver or something, they'll still be looking out for themselves as well. They'll want the wins if they can get it. So I'll be interested to see if if it was like, for example, a Ferrari AlphaTauri 1-2 with the championship leader in second, whether they'd actually switch position. I'd be very curious to see whether they'd actually do that, but I don't know. We'll have to maybe one time we'll find out in these next 7 races.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you have to say Rex, for example, struggled really recently, but on the other hand, he's also the driver of the most race wins in this division by having 2 race wins. But the consistency hasn't quite worked out for him recently, and he's even tried to hold up Jacob Brown, for example, because his Ferrari teammate Jamie Hobbs had a 5-second time penalty, if I remember correctly, and tried to get him out of that window from Jacob Brown. So that was probably some smart team play here from Ferrari. Like we don't really see it that often in real life, I have to admit. But yeah, I think Jamie definitely has everything on the cards right now with his 30-point gap, because I think that's a good gap also to like kind of relax and reflect in this 1 week break we have had, and now recharge the batteries for the final 7 races, the last third of the season. I think he can be quite calm, still pushing on, obviously, but I think especially if Jacob turns on his last boost in this championship, our fellow Ferrari driver might start sweating a little bit in the last couple of rounds, because it seems to get tighter and tighter every week.
Yeah, definitely. I think yeah, if I was Hops, I would still be looking over my shoulder because I know if it's over a race win right now, but it's not many points until he's within that one race gap. So obviously, yeah, it's good to relax and have a mindset where you're trying to calm yourself down, not overdrive whenever you race in the league. But I also think you shouldn't relax too much because if he gets too carried away, that 30-point gap could diminish very quickly, and we know how quick Jacob is. So yeah,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's Division 4 pretty much summed up as well. And I'd say we just hop over to Division 5, where it was once again Heike who wins for Aston Martin. So it's not 2 wins in a row for Maka. Heike is victorious at San Marino, or technically Italy, that's similar. Matt, debutant in P2 for Alpine. Maka then in P3. Not really extending his championship lead, but at least picking up some solid points. Equa in P4 with Paloma in P5, making it a double top 5 for Aston Martin. Boosted Abbey in P6 with Triangle Element only in P7, Gasser Buchanan in P8, RM James in P9, and J Street only P10 in the end for Alpha Tauri driver number 2. So in the driver standings, with 160 points scored so far for Maka, he now leads the championship by 14 points from Heike, who's definitely closing in. But Heike will miss the Bahrain Grand Prix, which could be really pivotal at the end of the season because Maka has this chance to really extend his championship lead in the driver standings. On the other hand, Triangular Lemon could come back here at Bahrain with hopefully a race win and make it a really close top three once more. And I've got Boosters RB still sitting on 94 points, so he's still quite a bit behind, but I think he can still claw that back if he has a couple of good races in the last third of the season. Batsy and Mashallah following the Williams drive of J Street just behind. Chizza Beast obviously got promoted to Division 3, so he will stay on his 61 points, Gasser Buchanan on 50 points, and Paloma on 46. Looking at the team standings, it's still McLaren leading on 237 points, but Aston Martin is really gaining back this points lead from McLaren and is now with 221 points, only 16 points behind, so that's less than a race win. That's just over a P3 finish, which is worth 15 points. Then we've got Alpine in P3 on 186 and Red Bull on 162. So it's from Red Bull only 90 points to P1, and that can definitely be gained back in 7 races' time. Alfa Romeo sitting on 149 points, 13 points ahead from Williams, who are on 136, who are closely followed by AlphaTauri, Haas, and Ferrari, while Mercedes is on 49 points and clearly at the back of the pile with Y2K and Aqua. So it looks like Mack and Heike are probably the ones. But with Heike missing Bahrain, I think this could be really, really crucial considering Maka being able to extend his lead, whatever happens, pretty much.
Yeah, definitely. And not ideal if you're fighting for the championship to miss a race. I know how it how it feels earlier in the season. You know, you can't do anything and about what happens in the race, and you know, you think, oh, maybe you look back at the race and maybe you think, oh, with how that race planned out, maybe I could have been up there winning the race. But obviously, you know, sometimes you have to miss a race or two. But I think looking on the positive side, though, knowing he had to miss the next race, he did manage to win the race before. So I guess that's a positive, and obviously, with Lemon, I'm sure he'll be he'll be hoping to win as well. I think you know, from a what do you call it?
Spectators.
Spectator, yeah, spectator point of view. I think we'll all be hoping he wins, so it can be a even closer title fight with a three-way battle all the way to the end.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, Division 5 has delivered some crazy races so far, and I think Bahrain is never a boring one because there usually is that safety car somewhere in there, probably at the end. Might it be 1, might it be 3 or 4.
And Atom AI doing donuts.
Yeah, I mean, that's some different stories there. So yeah, Maka, if you have the time, maybe put in a few donuts, make the championship interesting. That's our suggestion. To keep Division 5 interested. Yeah, probably not a bit early for that, but yeah, definitely an interesting race. And yeah, not getting a disconnect might help in the final lap of the race because then your car will probably be parked in a dangerous location, which could disconnect from the race. But yeah, if you don't know what we are meaning with this, probably tune in for Division 2 because I might replicate what we just talked about as I did the same last season. So yeah, that's Division 5 done. Let's head over to a very, very interesting Drivers' Championship. Oh, sorry, there is actually no Drivers' Championship going on. In Division 6, we had Tax winning for Alfa Romeo for the first time ever this season. So he'll be very, very happy and even said he's really glad to finally have won a race. It was actually difficult finding a proper Valtteri Bottas picture because he isn't used to winning anymore in Alfa Romeo. But hey, at least Tex is. Flying Luge in P2 with Callum Ladlow picking up another podium with a P3 finish. Echo, the championship leader, in P4. Allium UTD in P5. For some reason, he always finishes around P5. Rockingham and McLaren picking up P6 with Mike Reed in P7. Slowest stack. The D is very important here in P8 for Alpine. Ace in P9 for Ferrari after, I believe, getting pole position, but also conceding a quali ban for the next round at Bahrain, so he needs to make up some ground there, that's for sure. Avad finishing in P10 with 1 point overall this weekend for the Williams team. In the driver standings, Echo almost extends his championship lead to 100 points. And at this rate, it seems quite obvious who will probably win the Drivers' Championship here. I can't type this up, I'm really sorry. 10th Cannon is on 129 points, but only 13 ahead of Callum Ludlow, and with 10th Cannon not being able to participate at the next round at Bahrain, Callum Ludlow will probably smell his chance at least second in the driver standings. Viatex now goes up to P4 with 92 points, 3 points ahead of his teammate at Alfa Romeo, Ali MUTD. J-Tilb, after promotion from Div 7 into Div 6, is sitting on 83 points in P6 of the standings. Then Flying Luge, probably best of the rest with 66 points. Ace Guy on 60, Simon Duff on 49, and another reserve of Tran on 42. In the team standings, Aston Martin still leads the way with 243 points, ahead of Haas by 12 points, who are sitting on 231, and Mercedes only 2 points behind with 229. Alpine on 208 points. They struggled recently, so they definitely need to pick their game up very, very soon to have any chance on the Constructors' Championship, as the drivers isn't going in their favour either. Alfa Romeo on 181 points, with a huge gap to AlphaTauri on 107, only 5 ahead of the Williams Racing Team on 102. Then we've got Ferrari on 84, Red Bull on 66, and once more McLaren plumb last with 43 points. Now, once again, looking at the race results, I mean, it's quite a, let's say, exotic podium with Viatex, Flying Luge, and the ever-present Callum Ludlow in P3. But at this rate, don't you really have to raise the question, not when will someone challenge Echo? Isn't probably the question more like, when will we finally have an end to this, and when will Echo secure the title?
Yeah, well, I think, well, what I say is let's look at the Constructors' Championship instead. That's much more interesting. Now, Echo's been doing a brilliant job and obviously has a very, very comfortable gap, the point where he could probably have Sunday drives for the rest of the season and still win the championship. So definitely bodes well for him. Um, I think now it's more about people in the division trying to get themselves a bunch of wins and some nice statistics like most wins or most pole positions or most podiums or something in the season. I'm sure that people in the division who haven't won a race yet will be looking forward to trying to win a race at some point in these last 7 races. So.
Yeah, I think he can't win it this week yet, but I think in 1 or 2 weeks' time he's a quite solid chance on doing so. And I mean, it says it all if you, for example, win a championship with 5 races to go and then just go on a holiday. I don't think he will be, because he needs to score big points for the Haas team, because they're currently sitting P10 in the overall constructors. But you pointed something out, which is a very good idea, which is moving on to the team standings, because that's where the action is at, and it's very close between Haas and Mercedes, but also Aston Martin not too far ahead. And as we said previously, I mean, Aston Martin got a really good team duo so far, which gave them the lead in overall constructors. We said the same about Alpine, but that didn't quite go to plan recently. But that's probably something which wants Echo to win as well, because they're only 12 points behind. But he probably has a bit of a challenge ahead of him now, as there are 2 Aston Martin drivers against pretty much one Haas driver. Who do you think will potentially come out on top there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you only have one driver scoring points in the like for your team, you're gonna struggle. So, yeah, I'm sure Echo will be looking to score as many points as he can in order to win that constructors championship, as well as win the drivers championship. But yeah, it's going to be difficult, especially if both Aston drivers turn up weekly. But you know, Mercedes are really close in the points as well, so you gotta. They've got to look around. Echo's got to look around everywhere, pretty much. All around him are his constructors title contenders. So and even Alpine, obviously, like you said, they haven't been doing too well recently, but they're still, you know, if they get a 1-2, they will, and the others don't score somehow, they'll be straight back into the lead of the standing. So um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's still all to play for in the constructors, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's once again Division 6 done. I mean, we sadly can't deliver you a very interesting Drivers' Championship, but I'd say the Constructors is definitely doing all it can to kind of make this as equal as possible. Now moving on to Division 7, the last division, the last of one division, sorry, of this week, with Matthew MG823 picking up his second win of the season, if I'm not completely mistaken. Let me double check real quick. Oh no, it was Terrific Game, obviously, earlier who won. So it's actually a debut win for Matthew, and I'm sure he's very happy about that. Haven't really talked to him yet, but yeah, as you can see on the picture of George Russell, he's at least amused about the P1 finish. Then we've got championship leader Kieran, who picked up P2 despite technically DNFing, but a lobby restart helped him out big time, with Wargasm in P3, McMess in P4 being the better Ferrari this time around, with IndyCheck in P5, Bounce the Buns in P6, so a Blades Hero picking up another solid points, with It's Bright in P7 after getting pole position. He loses another couple of points, so the time's running away of the Ferrari driver considering the Drivers' Championship. Spud Racing in P8, Zigramato in P9, and for Apple, Sparky picking up a single point, which could prove crucial in their constructors' battle at the end of the season. In the driver standings then, Kieran now on 192 points, leading by 40 over his main competitor It's Bright. Matthew moves up into P3 of the driver standings by now having 112 points. McMessy on 105, only 7 behind, with Brown's Buns getting up there into P5 of the driver standings, sitting on 77 points, 2 points ahead of Wargasm in the Alpine. And we've got Spud Racing on 52 points, so despite us seeing recently Williams don't have the best lineup in Division 7, he could fight himself back up into that top 10 range in the driver standings, and this could also be very important in the overall constructors. Terrific Gamer, 47 points, 2 points ahead of Grizzy on 45, Marley with 41 points in the Haas. Then in the team standings, finally, we have Ferrari in 308 and McLaren 281. So McLaren definitely gained back some of that points loss they had from the last couple of weeks, but they're not quite there yet to challenge Ferrari for P1. Mercedes on 187, so almost 100 points behind, so that's pretty much gone for them. Then we've got Aston Martin on 155, Alpha Tauri on 100, with Red Bull only 6 points behind their technically smaller sister team by being on 94 points, Alpine on 87, and then at the back it's so close between Alfa Romeo, Haas and Williams, who are only split by 1 point. So Williams, as said, despite having a tough last few weekends, they can still at least get up into, for example, P6, P7 in the Constructors' Championship. But yeah, Division 7 once again, Blade, is a bit of a weird one because we have that new race winner. It's Bright has won last time around, but suddenly loses points again to Kieran because of inconsistency, because of a restart, which makes Kieran from zero, so basically DNF, to hero, but finishing second and outscoring his rival. I mean, that's probably something that kind of causes some Leclerc vibes for Bright, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a bit of a gut punch. You think, oh, my another chance to gain big points on my rival, and then the lobbies restart. But it happens sometimes, and these things are necessary sometimes as well. So, of course, uh, it is what it is. I'm sure Wright won't be too happy, and will be looking to try and gain a couple points back. I mean, if you think that I'm in the title fight in Div 1 or Jackstar's in the title to fight for Div 2, the points gap is about the same. So you could argue that Bright is also in the title fight, even though it is looking
Yeah.
a
I
bit
mean, we
of
have to
a
pretend
task.
so. We
Uh,
have to pretend so because
Yeah,
he's second. There's a
yeah,
great championship battle, everyone. It's very close. It's very interesting.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. But
but yeah, I mean, Matthew is suddenly in that topic as well with McMassey, but they're like the Sergio Perez of Valtteri Bottas part in there, just sitting behind and hoping something's gonna happen. But I feel like in 7 rounds, catching up by 80 points is a big task. Or I mean, I know you'll tell me it's still possible, but like theoretically, it's still a bit of a long shot, isn't it?
yeah, well, my maths isn't brilliant, but I'm pretty sure if, you know, for example, one of those two wins every single race and Kieran comes second, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't be winning the title. So, um,
Yeah. No, they
yeah,
won't. No, they won't. Not anytime
yeah.
soon.
So, my favorite saying is it's still possible, but it'll be very difficult. So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's for sure.
uh, I'm sure they'll give it everything. That's for sure. So.
Yeah, and also talking about your Williams team, I mean, as said, they didn't have the best of runs this season, but they both picked up points this week, despite Spud Racing giving the wall a big fat kiss in the last lap after a battle. I mean, they're at least trying and getting a few points, which is probably the maximum you can ask for because at least they're giving it their all to pick up some points for the team.
Yeah, I mean, well, they've got double points, 2 races in a row now. Very strong result in the both Italian races. So hopefully, once they go to a different country, it doesn't go it doesn't go to shambles. Yeah, but no, I'm sure they're doing everything they can, and obviously, all you can do is your best, and hopefully, they'll be able to see themselves lift Williams, up to even potentially ahead of Red Bull or. Where's Alpine? Yeah, ahead of Alpine, even better. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
as you pointed that
yeah,
out, I think it's a good point to have a quick look over to the overall constructor standings because we've always mentioned them but never really had a really detailed look at it. So I think it's ahead of the last third of the season. It's a good time to do so. So we now have Williams leading on one. Now my maths comes into play. 1,304 points. After Alpine leading for such a long time, Williams have finally overtaken them last week, I believe, in the overall constructors. They're now around 20 points, or actually exactly 20 points ahead of Alpine, who are sitting on 1,284, with Aston Martin also 52 points behind them. So it's probably a three-way fight with Ferrari being there or thereabout. But then look at the midfield: Mercedes, Alfa Romeo, McLaren, Red Bull. It's also close. It's 22 points between four teams separated by 7 divisions. So literally everything can happen here. AlphaTauri, couple of like last week actually, have passed Haas 4P9 and have actually created a little bit of a gap to them and are now slowly catching up to the mid pack there with Haas only on 906 points. But I'd say let's get away from the bottom of overall constructors for now. Let's just have a look at the top. I mean, it's despite it being such a long season and kind of causing a bit of a boring feeling probably at times, in the overall constructors, which is technically the biggest title you can achieve in GRL, it's really close despite being so many divisions, so many different skill levels, and we've got at least three teams fighting for the top spot here. I mean, it's amazing stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm very happy that my team Williams is in the number one spot, so I'm hoping it'll stay that way. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I have no idea who can, come out on top because, there's so many points that can be scored. So, 14 drivers in total for each team. So I don't know how many points that is that can be scored at once, but it's a crazy amount if one team gets one,
Yeah,
two in
it's
every
probably around
division. So
250 points.
yeah, so I mean it's crazy. Like with that, I don't know, Ferrari in one race could be, or even Mercedes could almost be. Oh no, they could be leading in just one weekend, which is crazy. So. Yeah, it's hard to judge because there's so many, so many different drivers, so many different teams. But obviously, if you're in first place, that means you've been doing well. So hopefully Williams stay up top, and yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
we'll see how this plays out. It's very
yeah,
interesting because I don't really know how it will.
will probably also be interesting for Division 1 because obviously Division 1 races later than the other divisions, and it's still in discussion whether it's the same week because the Division 1 finale might be postponed by 1 week because at the end of the day, it might be the Division 1 drivers who decide whoever wins the overall constructors. And I think despite nobody really talking too much about it, I think it still might create a little bit of pressure because, picking up a championship is also always something special, I believe, and definitely one you want to pick up if you can, because at some stage you might find yourself in a team which is ninth or 10th in the overall constructors. So yeah, definitely let's have a look out for that. But let's move over to the final and best division of GRL, as there always says and states. It's our F2 division. Very Muller. I had my enjoyment with a couple spins. But yeah, in the sprint race, it was Blade who won. In the feature race, it was Blade who won. So sounds like a very amazing race weekend that was. But you had to fight your way through in the sprint race. You had to beat I believe it was Trait, Dara, and Gibson in the feature race. So it was still some work was to do there. But yeah, I think overall you probably were the quickest. And is some part of you already saying like, yeah, it's looking good for the championship, or just keeping your head down for now and just picking up as many points as possible for the near future?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take each race, individually. I want to do as well as I can. I want to win as many races as I can. I want to, something that still eludes me is full points, because I didn't get, even though I won both races and got fastest lap in both races, I didn't get pole position. So I still haven't got full races in one weekend. So yeah, I want to achieve that at some point, and it's so much fun racing in these F2 cars and against the likes of yourself and Dower and Gibson and Bard and whoever else is up front. There's so many great battles, and I always look forward to F2. So, even if I wasn't, leading the championship, I'd still be attending every race, enjoying it to the fullest. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, they're always close. If it's not for P1, it's definitely for the other podium positions or in the midfield, where you have drivers fighting through, and the sprint race is just those skill drivers definitely defending for all they can and trying to somehow get in the podium. I mean, this week, I believe, if I'm not completely mistaken, we had Brown Spans fighting for podium in the sprint race for quite a while. So he was doing well, had some great pace around Imola. But didn't quite pay out in the end, I believe. Also, a good tussle between Gibson and myself around the final lap after him picking up wing damage due to me having a skill issue at the start of the race. But yeah, that's not what we want to talk about, and definitely not what I want to talk about. But yeah, I mean, as said, Blade is trying to extend his championship lead in F2 currently, but the other drivers definitely not sleeping and trying to get back up to speed as soon as possible. So definitely watch out for that on Wednesday evenings, 7:30 p.m. On the Twitch of Adam Reid. He'll guide you through all the action with hopefully a full grid. We'll see. We'll have to find out. But yeah, that's pretty much this podcast summed up, and all divisions cleared. But as we head into the final third of the season, I personally can only say enjoyed. I'm definitely gonna try to pick up a couple of more points in my division, so Blade in his. But before we head off from this, I gotta ask Blade. I mean, 7 races to go. Anything particular you're looking forward to?
I mean, I'm just looking forward to the championship in general. I'll be giving it my all in Division One, and I'll be enjoying every race in Division Two as well, and whatever else we do. Looking at all of the other divisions as well, it's gonna be a lot of fun because you never know in racing. The beauty of racing is that there can be, massive shocks and surprises. So, um, definitely excited to see what happens and. Yeah, looking forward to Bahrain as well. I enjoy that track, so yeah.
Yeah, that's good to hear for sure to make the championship in Division One even closer. And yeah, as said, at the end of the season there usually are tears of joy and tears of pain. Maybe there is a team of Glock in the final corner of Brazil as well. We'll find out what happens over
Nicholas
there.
Latifi.
Yeah, Blade might play the Nicholas Latifi, or Drizzy might do it for him. I'm sure Beeford wouldn't enjoy that, that's for sure. But
Yeah.
looking after Abu Dhabi, where the Brazil will go racing, as we will be in France, China with a sprint, Canada, Zandvoort, Bahrain, and I missed something in the between, I believe. But you'll definitely watch the race. I hope so. If you're not, then you're definitely a weird person because you're missing some great action. And yeah, that's this podcast finished for this race week at Imola. In a couple of days' time, you will see us at the Bahrain Grand Prix over at Sakhir after the in real life F1 Grand Prix, which probably wasn't the most exciting, but as said, you don't want to miss out on any action on track next week. So definitely tune in for that. And until we see you there, I can say goodbye.